Understanding autism means understanding that regression could be part of autism. It doesn't represent all children, but most do experience some form of regression. In the beginning, everything can seem perfectly fine. All developmental milestones can be hit at a normal rate. Children may seem typical, may seem just like your neighbor's kids, and fit in perfectly fine, doing all natural things you would expect a baby to do. Then all of a sudden, things drastically change, and it takes parents on a roller coaster ride that is not describable. All of a sudden, they start losing all these developmental milestones they had attained: talking, singing, replicating, eye contact, and start new behaviors like stimming, being in their own world. Some children regress quickly, some regress slowly, some only lose some developmental milestones, while some go all the way back to the beginning. Stressful events in life, being sick, can cause regression, so it's not a one-time event. It's possible for these children to catch up to their peers, although they may not be completely neurotypical. They can catch up, maybe not fully. Or a couple children that will continuously have to start from the beginning over and over again, but they work hard, and they will work as hard as they can to attain their goals, to reach their developmental levels they need. That is the real part of autism that nobody really wants to talk about. Behind every child is a parent that is fighting every single day to give their child the best life possible. They are taking each day head on, helping them battle and helping them develop the skills they need to have the most functional life possible. It feels like you're constantly picking up the pieces. You're picking them up and picking them up and picking them up. And then all of a sudden they fall apart again. But you know what you do. You begin to pick them up again. All children deserve to have a wonderful life. These children are different, not less. Please remember that.
Know that you are good enough. Please don't give up when things get tough. I know, I know, I know, I know. Won't you stay a while?
For our piece, Autism Regression, our director, Diane Buffington, used guided imagery in our choreography to help show what regression in autism can look like. Obviously, our choreography does not compare to those with autism who have experienced regression. This is just to show people who may not have a clear understanding of what regression looks like, begin to build an understanding of what regression is, what it means, and what it looks like. So at the beginning of our piece, we essentially all look the same. This represents children and babies showing all milestones being met. But things slowly begin to change. Some of us slow down, some of us are fast, some of us even stop. This is the regression beginning. Our director used editing software to make all of this happen. We initially all did the same movements and recorded ourselves individually, sent them to her, and she edited them to make some of us, all look the same, or move slowly, or move fast, or not at all. My reaction to first seeing the video, well, I cried because I think I finally started to begin to understand what regression was and what it looked like in autism. Because, in life, in real life, some of us keep moving forward. Some of us come to a halt, and some of us take a few steps backwards. And, in our piece, just because one dancer's movements look different than another dancer's movements doesn't mean that that dancer is any less of a dancer than any other dancer. In life, just because somebody looks different than you doesn't mean that they're any less of a person.
So, with a topic that's so complex and so not easily understood by so many people, like autism is, I feel like guided imagery as a performer is so important. So, when you look at like the start of the piece, we see smaller movements, they start on the floor and they progressively get bigger and bigger, working their way off the floor. Then we get to jumping and turning and reaching and grabbing and all kinds of other stuff, which to me as a performer represents the growing of a young child, of an infant, the developmental patterns and milestones that neurotypical children go through. And then you see the video in reverse. And to me, that's so important in understanding how regression happens in autism. You see this build up, progression, and then all of a sudden you're going backwards. And you're going backwards sometimes at a faster rate than you're going forward. And I feel like that really just hits home the idea of how quickly autism, and specifically regression in autism, can come in and shake up a child's whole entire life. So I feel that guided imagery is really important, not only as a performer, but just in general when you're trying to understand something so profound and something so complex like autism in an artistic performance. So talking more about regression and the way that that was portrayed in our piece, our choreographer was able to find ways through our editing program that we used this year to kind of hit home the fact that it's not the same for every child. So at first you'll see, the regular development that you might see with a neurotypical child. We start on the floor with very small movements and we work our way upwards to the floor, jumping and so on. Then you see regression, where it's just playing the video reverse backwards, starting from standing up and jumping all the way down to the beginning where we were on the floor. But as you watch the video more, you start to see sections where some of the performers are stopping at different sections in the movement. So some might only make it to about halfway off the floor, and then their video repeats. Some might make it all the way up, and their video repeats and reverses. There are some who make it all the way through to standing, and then their piece starts over from the beginning and goes all the way back through normally, kind of showing, again, the normal development. So I feel like using the editing program to show how regression can take place at different stages, and it can either be a constant restart from top to bottom, or sometimes it's small restarts every single day. It might be a restart with walking every single day, or singular verbal sounds every single day. So I feel like the editing program and the way that our choreographer was able to use that was really a key factor in showing the range that regression has with kids with autism. When watching the piece in its entirety and seeing the whole thing completely edited and put together so beautifully, I feel like the biggest thing for me really was seeing how regression can happen at different stages in development. It's not the same for every child. And I feel like, even as someone who has experienced and loved people with autism throughout life, that's something that I still didn't understand really, was how regression can be a constant restart daily, or it can be further on in life that you have this restart, reset. So I feel like getting to see that and understand that through the perspective of dance performance was something that I find really eye-opening and really heart-touching. And then looking at the kind of like, I guess you could say, sub-piece of myself with our director, Diane, where she took the role of the parent and I took the role of the child with autism, I feel like that also really hit home for me and really felt eye-opening. I feel like so many times people understand how regression and autism can impact the child's life, but not so much the parent's life. And if that section with that piece or with that version of this choreography, we really see through our director's performance how a parent raising and having to guide their child through this constant restart, through this process and this pain of regression every single day feels, and what they have to go through, and what it's like to watch their child have to constantly battle for the smallest achievements that they make every single day. So I feel like that's something that's really, really special for me as a performer to get to see and experience and take part in. Overall, I just feel that getting to even somewhat experience what our director does experience in her daily life with her son having autism, and her being so open and sharing all of that with us and allowing us to experience that with her and kind of understand, is something that I'm so grateful for, because so many people don't have that understanding that we all now do. Getting to perform and learn through this piece with her and kind of understand what she sees happen with her son and what she has to go through, and how her and her son constantly fight for the progress that he makes every single day, and really understanding how special each achievement that a child on the spectrum makes truly is. I mean, honestly, getting to be part of something like this is just amazing.
So with our topic for this piece being regression and autism, our director was able to give us or help us a lot by giving us guided imagery to go off of when performing the choreography for the piece. So, for example, with the topic being regression, you can see in our choreography at the beginning we start with some small movements, basically really representing a small baby just starting to grow and develop and starting to go along that developmental path. And as we go through the choreography, you can see how our movements can start to get a little bit bigger, and we end with some larger movements towards the end of the choreography as well. And that is really representing the baby going along their developmental path and really just growing and hitting all those different developmental milestones that you would expect your baby to hit and do. And yeah. And as you were able to see in our video presentation, our director was able to utilize different editing tools with the software that she was using to put it together to really give a clear representation of how regression in autism can occur and how quickly and suddenly it can occur as well. I truly think that for me was one of the biggest things that hit me when watching the final product of our piece. Because in the beginning we were given that guided imagery to kind of go off of and give us motivation on how to perform the choreography, but we weren't able to see it all together or see us all performing together until it was video edited and put together itself. So I just think just seeing how like some of us move forward with choreography, but then some of us also move back with choreography, and just to kind of represent that regression and how suddenly it can happen, and how many different children struggle with that, and very much struggle with just trying to keep those developmental milestones that they do hit and to keep moving forward. But yeah, it was really cool to see it all come together in the end, especially how all of our choreography came together, because it was really cool to take something so small like our individually recorded videos and make it into something so big like the final product of our piece. Just being able to take everything individually and put it together in a certain way, it was just so awesome to see in the end. And it's really awesome to see it being able to portray something so important like regression and autism, which is the topic that we chose.
Our piece uses guided imagery to represent regression. Oftentimes, individuals with autism will be developing on path and suddenly lose speech or social skills. This regression is displayed throughout our piece by using small movements to represent the first few stages of development and their milestones. As the piece continues, the movements increase and become larger to represent the regression of the skills that were already mastered. Our director used editing software to put our piece in reverse to display this uphill climb of development followed by sudden regression. After seeing the final product, I became more in tune with my understanding of individuals with autism. I learned that regression can occur suddenly at any age, but most often occurring during the first few years of life. Individuals with autism who experience regression do not all experience it the same way. We researched thoroughly and discussed our findings as a group to ensure we represented regression appropriately. This piece focuses on truly caring and understanding individuals with autism.
One thing that never ceases to amaze me is the power of dance and choreography and movement. When we're moving, we're able to tell a story with our bodies. So that's why our goal is to dance with a purpose, to shed more information to topics like this and educate others. Being a part of this piece was a great positive experience. When executing this piece, we were able to really dive into the realm of how we can utilize choreography and this movement in order to specifically target the topic of autism. This usage of guided imagery was especially important and effective when creating. We all filmed individually at our separate locations, given the same choreography. The different environments in which we filmed is also a great representation of how anybody can be affected by autism. I thought that our director did a fabulous job of editing together to show that the regression that some children experience versus those who may not experience these things. When I was finally able to see the piece, I thought it was absolutely terrific the way that it was represented, especially with the voiceovers. It's very educational and really gets the point across.